Messi. Messi. Oh my goodness. Balotelli. Aguero. That is extraordinary. What a head, son. What a head.
Back of the net.
Is this confidence thing? It feels like maybe the jersey is a little bit too heavy for some players. When they put them on, they don't show the same quality as they do maybe in their clubs. So we just need to change that. From England to this game, I felt much better. I don't know if you saw the same things. I felt much better. I saw the organisation emerging, and it's just working step by step on that. And I felt first half we should have been 1-0 up at least. Goals will always change games. Ours was disallowed. Really a magnificent strike. Was disallowed their first goal, and it changed the game completely.
On a weekend where anthems were bigger than football, we are the Not a Pundit podcast, and we're looking back at Heimir Hallgrímsson's first 2 games as manager of the Ireland team. I'm not going to say in charge. Connor, how are we doing?
I've been better, my man. I've been better. I don't know even how to describe it. I'm a bit worse for wear after, international breaks have never been my favourite. From an injury perspective to players, mostly from a club leveler. I'll also add fantasy in there, but and it's another international break of what if and excuses.
Well, if you think you had a bad weekend, poor Nate has been apoplectic in the WhatsApp chat up to this. Nate.
Oh, it's just a disgrace, isn't it? I suppose we can't be too surprised that the same failing organisation, the same players that don't perform on the pitch, it doesn't change when you change one man at the top. Like who knew? I certainly did. It's just like I'm scared where Irish football is at currently, and I think we're staring we're staring straight into the barrel, and I'm a bit scared where Irish football is at. But yeah, there needs to be a lot of thinking done, specifically at the FAI. But yeah, that's 2 Greece games in the matter of 6 months that have just been dire.
Just dire. Just to bring you off the ledge for a couple of minutes, let's kind of bring this back to zero. Let's look at the squad that Hallgrímsson and the backroom staff called up. Connor, was there any kind of big misses, big shouts ahead of time that made you kind of go, oh, that's cool, that's interesting, or oh my God, not this again?
It was what I don't mean to try sound like I'm ringing off lines just to be, interesting on the podcast, but it to me it's got to a point where I don't really care whose names are coming up on that sheet because it's just feeling so familiar. I will say though, with that in mind, I was excited to see Casey McAteer. It was great to see him get some time as well, although it's not in the best of games to be involved in. It was great to see that, and obviously Smodics is it's great to see him in the team. He's arguably the best we have. What about you? Anyone? I know you love diving into the nichest of niche. So who was your faves?
I think generally they got it right overall. With the ones that they got wrong, they got very wrong. Like Callum O'Dowda, what's the point?
These are the kind of ones that you're just, this is what I mean, familiar. It's just like, I'm not even annoyed anymore because like it's like the Jeff Hendrick being in the team for however long years back,
Yeah, like when you look at, I think it's really the defenses where they had the issues. Like the attackers are the attackers you should be bringing, bar Callum Robinson. I think Callum Robinson, he's not bringing anything different to what the other players can offer. Like Ogbene is a better version of Callum Robinson. Parrott is getting goals in the Eredivisie. He has a bit of confidence. Put him there. Smodics can be your bridge between the forward line and midfield. Perfect. Ida and Ferguson, of course, you're going to bring the two of them. Midfield, yeah, they got it right. Alan Brown has had a great start with Sunderland. Jason Knight is a workhorse. McAteer, as you say, great to see him. Smallbone, good passer. Malumbi is meant to be that bastard that was all tipped for Hallgrímsson's team. So generally, that's about right. Maybe I'd put in Sinclair Armstrong instead of Robinson, because somebody with a bit of want and desire to prove themselves, and he got it, his new summer move. So again, want and desire.
Before you hit those defenders, though, like, what do you boys think of that team? Like, I mean, look, take away that we're Irish football fans, and that is probably the best we have to offer. But like, you can't tell me any nation coming up against those players isn't like, oh yeah, we can definitely beat them.
Lads, like Robbie Brady, like plays for our team in 2024. Like, if that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what is. Matt Doherty, like that was a crime on the pitch yesterday, and I feel bad for them that they're still getting picked. Do you know what I mean? Because of course they're gonna answer the call up when it comes to them, but like someone put them out of their misery. They're not good enough. I'd honestly rather go to the League of Ireland and pick players that are young and have some ability to develop. Like, and I just think like when you're selecting them and they're actually getting game time, it's like we're literally going nowhere fast.
Run us through that full roster there of defenders before we fully nail them.
So we had Seamus Coleman for the initial squad, who got injured after the England game, so it was replaced by Festi Ebelesi. Matt Doherty, Dara O'Shea, Nathan Collins, Jacob Bryan, Obed Bamadeli, Liam Scales, Callum O'Dowda was considered a defender, and Robbie Brady again considered a defender.
Like, there's 2-3 players in there that are very good. Nathan Collins, cracking player. Jacob Bryan, great player. Coleman, if he's fit, great player. Like, defensively, that should be our best position group. And the fact that was our weakest and has been our weakest for years is like, just a disgrace.
This is what I mean in terms of like when they get them wrong, they get them very wrong. Like Matt Doherty, just not even in terms of like match fitness. He didn't look match fit. He didn't look ready to be in a competitive game. Just seemed disinterested. So that's something you should be picking up on in training. Just no, I'm not going to reward that. Callum O'Dowda just isn't a left back. He may be a left wing back, but we're not playing that. So
he's also just not good enough. He's just not.
He was at one stage. He had a very good 2 seasons when he was playing left wing. But there's nothing right now to make you go, I need him in the squad. If he was there to be a backup, grant. But I'd rather have Robbie Brady as a backup in that same kind of role where you're more of a wing back than you are a left back. But at least Robbie Brady has the experience of being around a competitive tournament squad. Liam Scales is fine. Like he's not bad again if he's going to be your backup, but like we don't need him as a backup, so you're kind of bringing him to be your backup left back, and he's not good enough there because like center defense we are absolutely class.
Yeah, like we are
solid there.
But the fact that we're still like I know the thing that's probably been most talked about both in the run up to this and after the game was the amount of goals we're conceding from outside the box. 14 goals outside the box since 2021. Like, I know that's hard to register when you don't have the comparisons to other teams, but that's still a lot of goals. And the fact that we've got that core 3, like I'm not expecting them to play like peak Italy, but like they just have to figure it out. Like that is our best hope. And if we're not going to put goals in the back of the net, we can at least stop them going in.
Like if you have lots of good forwards, what do? You try and incorporate as many of them as possible. Like look at Portugal. Portugal managed to fit in all their wingers, generally. So like we should be doing the same with our centre backs. If you're not going to play 3 at the back, well then do you have a sitting midfielder and put the likes of a Nathan Collins in there? Like I'd rather see something like that than
in a kind of Declan Rice way.
Yeah, like just have somebody that is decent on the ball, but is more defensively sound than a midfielder generally is, and like make use of all these players because like you could play Bamadeli and Jacob Bryan and Nathan Collins in midfield and still have Darrell O'Shea on the bench ready to go. Like that is ridiculously good.
Even if we'd gone with that and it didn't work, I'd be like, at least we tried something.
Exactly. Like right back, I think with Festi we're fine. He's not great, but he's enough. We need a new left back. And why they're not going for Dennis Cirkin?
Like what like
I'd
why are we
agree with you,
playing a
mate.
centre back at right back? Like it doesn't make sense. Like you've got a young like very talented right back coming through. Like it honestly feels like we can't even complain about not having a left back because we don't even use the right back that we have. Like it's genuinely like absurd. Like you've got a really young back line, build on it. Like literally build on it. But no, we're playing Robbie Brady left back with a centre back at right back and two set. Like it's beyond me.
Heimer was a
And
defender himself. He should be able to work that problem at least first.
Yeah. But like when you look at the overall like players we have available to us, there is swaps you can make and have a slight. I don't know if it would be a stronger technically squad. Like if you were to use FIFA analogy of, I don't know if the overall rating would be any better, but you definitely have better belief in them. Like if you could get the likes of a Dennis Sirkin in, like you'd go, okay, he's a very very good defender. But even like having the likes of a Dara Lenihan in there instead of like a Liam Scales, maybe like Championship versus SPL. I'd argue they're in and around the same, or even your man Cashin from Derby, like having a young lad in who's willing to kind of go for it. Um, I think one of the issues is, and I think this is kind of where Heimer was touching on with in his full kind of post match press conference after the Greece game, after he spoke about the jersey weighing heavy on players, which I think we should get onto almost immediately, is that there's players are too comfortable knowing they're going to get the call up and they're going to get playing, that they don't necessarily need to push themselves. Whereas if instead of having Callum Robinson, who I think always has a bit of an ego, and some players need that, but if you had bloody Andrew Moran in instead of him, you'd kind of go, okay, Andrew Moran
Yeah.
has something to prove, and we're building for something, if you know what I mean.
But like Robinson, I think he doesn't deserve that ego, but I think he has that ego because he's been in the team for quite a while. And I think it's also the players he surrounds himself with in a friendship group wise are top tier athletes. Like his best friend is Jack Grealish. That's chalk and cheese right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that Aston Villa generation.
So like I understand why he brings an ego to the team, but I totally agree. Like, and you know, I'm not trying to be some Che Guevara to the Irish team, but like we need people who want to be there, who are fighting to be there, and I would rather players who are, you can see, are giving it everything they have, and it's not good enough, than being not good enough and people not trying.
the thing is, there was sparks. Like that's hard for me to say right now because how bad them games went. But there was sparks. There is 100% a class player in Albene. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
100%. Like you can see the spark. Smodix, like honestly, he had a bit like you could see when he got the ball that there was just that bit of creativity about him that he can get that ball into Ogbene or whatever. He looked really good to me when he got on the ball. And they're the things that you have to sort of build on.
Alan
Like,
Brown's chance was also pretty solid, you know.
yeah,
And I think with those ones that you're saying, the thing that really bothered me about all of them, we'd 4 or 5 half chances, but what really I can't get past is if Greece had one of them, they would have scored them,
yeah.
and
Oh,
that's
100%.
the difference.
Like,
let's just go on to the games now. Like, so the England game, Nate, were you surprised at the result ultimately?
no, I was surprised how open we were in the
Yeah,
first 25 minutes. Like,
Mm.
holy hell, can someone, like, explain to them that they're playing England? Um, it felt very naive, to be honest. Um, to be honest, I was a bit let down on, like, there wasn't that spark in that game in terms of, like, lads were playing England.
yeah, it's spice. Like
Yeah,
there wasn't any like that. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, and like you said, they couldn't be surprised with the result. No, but like Nate saying, that could have us. We could have been playing San Marino.
I want to see a bit of fight. Like, I can't remember who came on towards the end, but he was leaving a few tackles on someone. And I was like, yeah, it'd be good if your teammates joined you in that. Like, for the rest, like I want to see them go up to them and face up to that. They're playing England. I didn't expect them to beat England. No, nobody did. Okay, but leave the pitch with a bit of pride, and I don't think we did.
It's like that thing when like say like a Manchester derby, and you have all these players that don't necessarily get the local end of it, or like Manchester versus Liverpool,
Yeah.
where like if you're in and around the city, you understand how much it means to them, and if you're a new player, you might not, especially if you're coming from like South America or Eastern Europe or anything like that. I kind of give that bit of a feel of kind of going like, oh, you're playing football.
Yeah,
This should be like
It felt pally rather than it felt like this was just a game in what I'm not even going to call us Premier League, a game in like League One. It was like an FA Cup game where a League One team were playing a Premier League team. Is what it was.
but one thing that hit me personally was when Heimer before the game came out and said, "I don't need to tell these players how big this game is." Well, news flash, Heimer, you did. Like literally, you did. Like I read that and I was like, I remember reading that the day before. I was like, God, these guys better come out with a bit of something.
Yeah, when you say that, you got to come
can't
out
be
doing
saying
two
that.
footers.
You literally said, "I don't need to explain to these guys how big this match is, what it means." Like it's
I wonder are we as a nation missing out on not having as many WWE fans anymore? Because I think having that little bit of a heel thing where it's kind of like, yeah, I am Stone Cold Steve Austin, where I know if I do this one little thing, it's not going to change the game, but it's going to get the crowd going. And having the crowd going is going to make everybody feel happier at the end of the day, regardless of the result.
But that was one of the things that James McLean was good at. One of few. But that was one thing that he was good at, was getting the crowd going, sticking 2 feet in and getting that yellow that kind of got the crowd bouncing, you know?
I know people have been moaning about the crowd and stuff, and that's one thing or another, but the crowd were up for it. The crowd were up for that game. What was produced was what brought that intensity down. So, like, just imagine they went out there with a bit of oomph. Like, what that Irish crowd pushing them on could have done. Like, who knows? But we didn't see it.
Do you think this confidence chat, though, is really the core of this, Killian?
I think it's definitely a factor. I think like we've seen it and heard it mentioned before with players over the years where there's kind of an expectation of grandeur that Ireland fans can project on players that can kind of demoralize them ahead of time, in the sense of that kind of like they're expecting us to go out and beat the world. We're just not that. And instantly they have a negative thought in their head instead of kind of going, let's go out and enjoy it. Let's see how well we can do. Let's be the plucky underdog. I think there is a general lack of confidence, more so in the players with each other. And I think by not having
chemistry,
I think by not having the competitive nature where you're kind of looking over your shoulder in a kind of friendly competition of like, oh, he's going to take my spot and I don't know if I'll get called up again. I think there's a lack of, like, if you look at Doherty in his kind of attitude over the 2 games, it was a bit kind of like, oh, well, my teammates are a bit shit here.
Yeah.
Sure, why would I bother? Like,
little does he know he's the most shit there.
He looked the fucking worst on the pitch.
Yeah, like they fucked up, and now I have to clean up that mess, and I'm not going to do it this time. There was I found a little bit of that, and I kind of wonder, is there that kind of a factor, which is why I want to see more of the young players coming through. Like the under 21s had a much more competitive game against Latvia, despite did it finish as a 2-2 draw in the end? Yeah. But like Sinclair Armstrong, fantastic player, and he's just one of them kind of guys that he will bust along, and he makes you excited to kind of go, okay, well, he's trying. We might eke out, and that was one of the things we were always very good at, was eking out some form of a result. Maybe it wasn't always a win, but it was always one of them kind of like, okay, we put it up to them.
2016 Ireland were a team that when they played the likes of France or Germany, you were like, we'll get something, but when we play Switzerland or someone like that, we won't. And I know that's its own problem in itself, but at least then, you know, we had belief going to these games. But like, it's just, it was something out of the script of the football gods that the 2 ex-Irish players were the ones that put the ball in the back of the net. Like, you couldn't write that.
But do you know the part where you say about beating France and stuff? It's like it's something that Irish football's lost and something that they had in the past. And it's something that you see in the rugby team now and other sports is the us versus them aspect. Like us as a country versus them. Like there needs to be that bit of venom where it's like it's us against the world type. Where you don't get that with any of these players. Like there needs to be that. I think Coach like Mourinho was the best for it, wasn't he? He got everyone's backsides up and was like, every time we
Siege
go out,
mentality. Yeah,
we're
it's us against the
going we're
world.
going to war.
Yeah.
And the nature is when we're dealing with players where we have good players, but they're a lot of them are battling relegation week in, week out, is it really needs to be that environment where they come in and it's us versus them.
Where I do think it's harder for the football team, to be fair to the FAI, is, you look at that Ireland team from a rugby perspective. You've got probably 7 guys who play week in, week out at Leinster, 5 guys who play week in, week out at Munster, plus a few extras. You know what I mean? Like it's they already have a cohesion there from training together pretty much every day of the season.
And there's one of the things I did want to touch on with the Greece game, is the fact that like I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they completely wrote off. It might have even been off the ball. Completely wrote off Greece, kind of going like, we should be beating these. And it's like,
why on earth
No.
should we be beating them?
Did you look at the Greece squad? No, did you look at the Greece squad? They're all like European
Top level players.
Not even top level players, but they're all playing in Europe. Like they're ranging from PAOK in like say like the Conference League up to Liverpool. Like Newcastle has signed with their starting goalkeeper. Like we are actually genuinely in and around Greece's stature of player.
Are we?
We're not. No,
No, I
we're
don't
not
think
there.
we are. I really don't.
We're
think
in and around. We're in the same kind of sphere, but they're at the top of that division, and
Yeah,
like
I'll give you
like
that.
we're towards the middle bottom of it. Like they're kind of a team that we should be able to get a result against, but it'll be a damn hard fought game, and we're not going. It might two times out of 3 we might lose it or draw it. Like
That's
they're a lot more competitive than they were given credit for.
What happened to the North Macedonia friendlies and the Bosnian ones from back in the day? Like, can we review them, please?
Give us a Liechtenstein, yeah.
Like, please. Like, we're on our knees here.
As Luxembourg showed us, we can't rely on them.
One thing though, I don't know about you, but if they gave us millions, we couldn't still buy a midfield. Like it's so.
But it's been like that. It's been like that since that era of 02 left us. We've had good players like we had, Wezo, and we've had standout players like that. I'll even throw Glenn Whelan into the mix because he did wonders for years. But once that Keno and Duff went, we've had players up top that are good. We've had players at the back that are good. We've had good goalies, but there's always been that just gulf in the middle.
Can we get better with a midfield like that? Like I don't know. Like when the deficiency is that big in that area, I don't know if that team can get better.
Well, they're the motor of the team. Like if your midfield is off, there's only so much you can do. I don't care if we had literally the best defense in the world and the best strikers in the world. If we can't get that middle cooking, we are done ski.
Do you think that it is able to be fixed by looking at, like Heimir has mentioned before, about looking to the granny rulers? Do you think there's enough out there that if we can get them to agree to play for us,
is that the right thing to do?
Maybe, but is it fixable? Is it fixable through play style? Are we trying to play a style of football that we literally can't play?
Well, we don't have a style right now. I that was the one carryover from Kenny to Heimir. I know it's only 2 games for Heimir, and it's 6 weeks in the job, and you can't expect as much as we're expecting. But we are a rudderless ship.
No,
we want indications.
But how do I say this? We're trying to play football when we clearly can't play football. And I mean that in the most basic terms. Is do we have to go to playing defensive football because we can't create with that midfield?
Are you saying go route one, go big Sambo?
I'm talking everyone to the back and we hit them on the counter. Is
after the days of win ugly.
Is that where we have to play football? Because I don't think our midfield's good enough to play any other style. I really don't.
I mean, there was an element to that 2016 team, and the only reason I keep harping back to that is that's the last decent team we had.
And it wasn't even that decent.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm clutching on straws here.
On the granny rule stuff is can we improve that midfield? Probably.
It's fixable.
And I don't mean just the midfield. Like sometimes you have to fix the left back situation to be able to fix the midfield because you're getting drawn into these extra positions. Or like if you had somebody that is willing to play right back,
we've got the personnel from a defensive point of view to make it work. We've got people
now. I don't think we do.
I really don't.
Well, we've got, but like I think if we vary up the system,
do we have?
But I think if we vary up the system, like you were saying, where we do that kind of Declan Rice piece, we've got enough of people there that we can carry stragglers on the flanks. We've got a decent central core, and if we play through the middle,
I genuinely think we can't fix that left back's position right now because the best option I think we have is the young lad Teo Ademola from Crystal Palace. He's gone on loan to Coventry this year, but this is like his breakthrough championship year. So you can't expect him yet.
Yeah.
But he's a very good player for the under-21s. So we need a player for now. And genuinely, the only person I can see is Dennis Serkin for Sunderland. And it's not a Sunderland thing. It's just he's a very damn good left back. And he can fill in centre if needed. But he's also an attacking threat. Like he is everything that we want from every other player. Yeah. Like it's not even just a wing back, just from and he can play left back, not just wing back. So it's not like a Robbie Brady where it's like, oh yeah, he can whip in across. He's not that great at tackling though, or putting out Darragh O'Shea on the left hand side. Or he can put in a tackle, but it's on his wrong side and it's completely useless going forward. Like this is the only player I can see that does a little bit of everything. Even Enda Stevens, who was our kind of our last proper left back, wasn't a good left back. He was a wing back. And then before him, we were playing Brady and McLean.
How long has Brady been in the team? Like, it's actually frightening.
People forget like how young he came through because like he broke through not at United. He came through United, but he broke through at Hull on loan.
Yeah,
and I think he was only 20 then. Like at 2016, he was young.
Jesus.
At what point, like, does the FAI go, we actually need to tailor make players for these positions? Like, say for example, and I'm harping back to the rugby part again, but it's quite relevant in my opinion. Just so the IRFU have gone, we need more tie head props. You know what they've done? They banned the clubs, and I know they can do this because they own the clubs. They banned the clubs from buying in players from other countries. Yeah. So we have to bring through our own props. Surely there's a system here where the IRFU go, we need a left back. We need a 5-year plan to get a left back. Like
to do that, we need a centre of excellence, and that we don't have, or at least an academy system that can foster those players. And yes, if they go to the UK, that's fine. We'll get them when they're at that senior men's age, or women's for that fact in the women's team. But I think the funding isn't there in the same way that where, like you said, in rugby, the RFU own the club so they can control that side of it. But then also the school system in Ireland is a factory for talent that doesn't exist in football.
Should we have a team in if the League of Ireland is to stay within the FAI thing, which I know is under consideration at this moment in time, should we be looking to have rather than like Shamrock Rovers having B teams and stuff, should we have like a Lansdowne Road FC that is actually ran by the FAI as if it's a centre of excellence, and having this team where you can take in players on loan, but it also allows like under 21 players, gives them an option instead of going to England or getting loan back from England if they're only going to be playing academy football. That's here is the system that we want to play, and we're going to do it as a club.
But will players end up going to that team just because they think it's the way into the Ireland team? So, like, are you getting the wrong ends there? Because I think the concept of that is brilliant, and it's something I think we talked about before. But
like, I know what you're saying about do you get the wrong ends or they're doing it for the wrong reasons? But do you end up with a team that's then cohesive anyway?
True, and also
like, perfect is the enemy of the good.
Also, you'd have a team that's training full time in a state of the art center, like that's what we need. Like, and I'll be like the League of Ireland clubs do a great job with the resources that they have in the academy level, but it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And like I brought up this question in work: should the FAI be trying to bail out Dundalk?
Ooh, as in to take it
Should
on like this Lansdowne FC.
should they like because
If it, to do it in lieu of that, then yeah, I think so. That'd be great.
like that's what I mean. It's like should should that be the direction that they go and then
Nicely
they
positioned if you're trying to get Northern Irish players.
Yeah.
exactly. But then they have like control over not control, but like they can dictate how they develop players somewhat. You know what I mean? Where we just don't have that right now. We
One thing I
shouldn't
will
be.
say though, man, is even if they do take that a club on in that role, which would be great, there I think I speak for the three of us when I say this. The caliber of executives in that building would mess it up. We do not have the right people in the FAI to pull off that plan, even if we had the money and the opportunity.
No. Like, just before we go on to kind of like the C-suite level of the FAI, I do want to just kind of mention that, like, if we had a team like that available to the nation, imagine how great that would be for players that are, like, it'd be a second opportunity for them if they're getting released by clubs over in England or anything like that. So it's
Yeah.
not this kind of gulf of kind of like a League of Ireland team that can't necessarily afford to pay them, because it'd be at least centralized funding and probably wouldn't be as competitive as the upper teams, but at least it would be like we're doing this and you have a minimum release fee of, if it's within Ireland, 0 and abroad 100k, something like that, where you have kind of a really good Irish led structure, and it's kind of a glorified trialist team for the year. Like, imagine how many players we wouldn't have lost if, you know, like
Oh, loads.
even the likes of let's say like a Dan Crowley, who dropped through the divisions and kind of worked his way back up. Like, imagine, or even say Jack Byrne. Like, with Jack Byrne, when he got released by Apoel and he came back to Shamrock Rovers, there's that kind of little period of will he, won't he, what's he doing? Or Keith Buckley when he went to Australia, and then will he come back to Bows or not? He ended up, yeah. But like, imagine having a pathway for an older player like that, even to go into a League of Ireland team ran by the FAI and be able to develop along these players and help them and be that kind of like arm around the shoulder. Like, I
I
just think
think it's a
it makes complete
no-brainer.
sense.
Like I think it's a genuine no-brainer because not only can the thing that will be brought up and put against them is, oh, are they going to try and flip players and stuff like that? But I think just being able to get them in the building in Abbottstown, say that's, I know Dundalk's quite far away from Abbottstown, but if they could train in that facility 5 days a week, you're going to see a higher level player anyway.
But it's
Do you
also
know?
like, on killing your point of the players that we could have kept. The other side of the coin is, imagine the amount of players that could have been that we've never
Yeah.
heard of. You know,
Yeah.
that's the bigger one for me. Like, how many people have we possibly missed out on that gave up on the game because they got the League of Ireland, the money wasn't worth it to them for the injuries that they were carrying, and they couldn't make it in the UK, so they just gave it up and got an office job, or, you know, like that. They're the ones that I'm like, we really lost out on.
Look at Shane Supple when he came back from Ipswich to play GA. I know he eventually went back playing with Bows, but like, imagine again having that kind of in between team where like you're not committed to being like a full time player. Like, it's one of these teams that you could play around with, kind of like, yeah, well, you're a backup goalkeeper. Well, that's fine. You're 26. You're going to have a normal job. We'll work around that and deal with that. But we want you there because we're going to have 18-year-olds coming, and we want you to be the older brother kind of thing. Like, it just to be such forward thinking. And when you think of the granny rules and the things, imagine like being able to sell that to English-based players or anything like that. It's kind of going, listen, we have a setup that you're just going to slot into, because like, look at how these guys are playing. Yes, they're always playing together, but it's football. You play with other people. And kind of going, yeah, we are not just thinking of now. We are trying to develop into the future, and that we want you to be part of that future. So yes, come play for us now. We may not be that good, but in 5 years' time, this is our plan. This is where we're getting to, and this is how we're doing it. Like,
Legally, could the
yes,
FAI do this? Because then you get into is it match fixing? Is it all of that
Yeah.
kind of thing?
I don't know if the FAI could, but like definitely somebody on behalf of. Like, it doesn't always have to be FAI itself.
That's a good
Um,
point, to be fair. Like, it does become muddy ground then. Um, just from a general perspective, like, if the FAI is funding it, it becomes muddy ground. But just because there is that conflict of interest.
If the people who are making the rules own a team, it or governing the sport at least, say for example, if that team got into, say there was chants that were unfavorable, and then it's up with the FAI for review, it's their team.
well, is it always the FAI that does that? Like, there has to be a competitive ombudsman.
Yeah.
Like, you can put in checks and balances. Like, you could also do it in a way that, like, the team has to be a not for profit.
You could roadblock it enough that it's feasible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could even if you wanted to make it less kind of competitive, you could make it like that it's only an under 21s.
Yeah.
Like, this is genuinely just a pathway team. Like, there's loads of things you can do. Like, none of it's going to happen because I don't think on the C-suite level that we have that kind of ingenuity. But this is the C-suite level that we have, Connor.
I mean, it's not even the personnel that are there now. This is an issue that has plagued us for as long as I can remember, and as long as I've been a football fan, that the people in the building are just archaic in their thinking. And look, it's easy to look in from outside and say it's an easy job, and I'm aware it's very much not. But it just seems that time and time and time again, we're picking the wrong people for this role that are so short-sighted in their approach to Irish football. Like, the best chance that we had in recent years was when Niall Quinn came in. I'm not saying he was the guy. I'm not saying he was the best to ever do it. But that was our only shred of a hope. And I think he got into the inside, had that interest in being that kind of revolutionary one, so that it's just not possible within that framework. And I don't know how you reset and recalibrate an entire C-suite team. It's not like we've just got one bad egg at the top. That's what we thought we had with John Delaney. We got rid of him. All of the problems are still there.
Nate, is it that it's the wrong people that are getting into the right positions, or is it that the positions are so political you can't be inventive when you're in them?
I think both can exist, but I do think the big thing that stands out to me is we're hiring people that can't self-reflect on how bad their decisions are. Like, genuinely, how many decisions do we have to go one after the other till these guys go, we're just making bad decision after bad decision. Like, and the most disheartening thing is it keeps happening, and it's like, at that point, it's like, you might as well just burn the whole building down. In terms
Even when it keeps happening, though, that happens in businesses where poor decisions are made on an ongoing basis. But when there's no ownership of those bad decisions, that's what really
exactly,
galls me.
who's the one calling the shots in there?
I doubt they even know.
Who's the one that when it doesn't go right, it falls on?
Because it seems like
I don't know.
it's a blame game. It's literally that Spider-Man meme of everyone pointing at everyone going, "No, it's your fault, your fault, your fault." Like, and even like, I can't remember which one of you it was that spotted there was a certain promotion within the ranks of the FAI.
Yeah, as a daily user of LinkedIn, and I'm sure there's not many listeners that can say that, I came across that Marc Canham, director of football of FAI, or should I say former director of football of the FAI, because just around the time of the England game, he actually got a new position, or at least a new title, for chief of footballing operations. Now, before we came on, we were discussing, what does this mean? Is this a promotion? Is this a rebrand? Or is this an acknowledgement that whoever is going to come in for the permanent CEO position actually knows nothing about football, and they're now going to be a little bit more kind of designating things out? So you'll have a kind of like what Man United did, but like on a little
On a
level.
shoestring basis, yeah.
Yeah,
Does
this is Timu version.
Does Marc Canham know much about football? Because I haven't seen it. My issue is with this is number one, they haven't come out and said that this is happening. We found out through lovely LinkedIn.
Well, as the saying is, a Friday afternoon story. Like this is the definition of that, where the press have clocked off until the weekend. No statement goes out to not make it obvious. He probably, for his own ego, put it out on LinkedIn, and that's a whole different gravy. But they really were quiet on this one, and the lack of speech around it says a lot more.
But lucky for the Not a Pundit listeners, Not a Pundit never sleeps, so we spotted all the news.
But like, number one, who's promoted him? It might not even be a promotion. It might just be what word is
rebrand.
Rebrand.
Well, that's still a board decision to do.
Yeah, it's still a move up, isn't it? Like it's.
Well, anytime you see anything in front of your title, you're at a different level of authority, and there's likelihood that he's gone from director of football up to chief football officer. There will be someone underneath him.
Yeah, and my question is, who's made the decision that number one, there should be someone under him, and number two, there should be someone above him? Because that's not me taking shots. That's just me genuinely curious. Because all I've seen in the last God knows how long is failure. Number one, number two, I don't want to use the word lies, but there was a lot of shadiness around saying stuff about the manager, this and that. There was number three, no ownership over the manager. Like, I don't know about you lads, but like it just doesn't fill me with confidence.
To me, if the time comes in the short term that Heimir it's decided that he isn't the man. If Marc Canham survives that, I don't know what to say. Because Heimir is apparently Canham's man. He was his number one pick, which none of us believe. But if this is his last chance saloon, if he's the guy that picked the guy and he doesn't last his full contract, he's got to go with him.
Like, this is one of the things like kind of bug me with the FAI, and I think ultimately, like, disbanding the FAI is going to achieve nothing. It's going to set you backwards. It's
I debate that.
Well, we need a governing body. We just need different people in pulling the strings.
Yeah, and you can't burn salvageable.
Yeah, ultimately,
as an organization, yes, but is there the people in there at the moment that can do that? I don't think so, and I don't know where you even begin to regroup with that, and how on earth do you get rid of an entire C-suite of people, and then where the hell do you find the people to come in that are going to be cohesive, that you're not for the next 5-10 years in the exact same position falling over yourselves?
Just because you don't like Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael doesn't mean you should go to and like do a coup against the government to get a new one in. Like, ultimately, you just move things on, and you hope that the next one's going to be like one of my issues with them at the minute, and everything I say is from a position of wanting them to be the best that they can be and the best that we could want them to be. Is like Man United leaked what their structure is. Like, there was speculation on social media. We all know that generally these things come out in some form of a leak or an indication so that fans know what's going on. That's a private entity. The FAI isn't. And there's now this new position that none of us heard about or know where it fits into the overall pyramid or whatever, which I find very, very frustrating. And on Heimir, like, ultimately, he's here 6 weeks. We're going to have him for at least 2 more years. So batten down the hatches, get out your Icelandic flags, and just believe.
But if Heimir was our number one pick, according to Mr. Canham, and it was decided back in March that he was our guy, you're telling me that he wouldn't have started at least working on this? Because, I'm not trying to body Heimir. I think he's a good guy 6 weeks in. If we're really saying he only started 6 weeks ago, what is to be expected? But to me, it's a bit like an Ashworth situation. You're telling me he wasn't working on the United plans while he was still at Newcastle? Like, come off it,
But, like, haven't we had Carsey and Roy Keane come out and say that they were like in discussions with them very recently? Like,
when you've had Heimir talking to the press in Jamaica at the time that Canham is claiming that he was in negotiations with them, and Heimir was telling the Jamaican press that he's preparing for the next tournament. It's just unbelievable. And what's happening now with the what seems, as we kind of alluded to earlier, which is that like he's the manager but he's not in control of the team yet, with John O'Shea kind of leading the line and doing press conferences
and picking the team, which they have acknowledged. John O'Shea picked that team.
And like I think what that more so kind of proves is that this was a lot more last minute, and hence why Connor was saying about if he did only really start in the last 6 weeks.
I still think 6 weeks is long enough to do a better job than he did, and I think not doing the press conference was such a the pre-match press conference. They can say that was scheduled all they want. Optics of that are awful.
Optics are awful, but I think this was an attempt by the FAI, as we've seen many times before. They're not very good at getting the optics right on these kind of things, but I think the intention, or at least hope the intention, was right, and kind of going, listen, we're going to shield you from a very tough first 2 games by allowing the kind of interim team until you really get your feet under the table.
We wasted so many games, though, that he could have found his feet on.
I thought there was goodwill there before that press conference fiasco. Like, I think there would have been a different reaction to say at least the England game if that press conference didn't go like that. They gave the media what they want.
Yeah,
he gave them the headline.
Well,
like they literally handed it to them.
The other thing about the goodwill end of it is like we have to also acknowledge that like we are in like football. Generations go in cycles, and we're part of the cycle now that we are going to be not minnows, but definitely lower.
We are minnows.
And we have to acknowledge that. So like whatever the press wants to do about getting their teeth into the team and complaining about them, there's only so much you can complain about when we're like, if Northern Ireland start whinging about losing to England, you kind of go, come on, lads. We're below that level.
Well, Killian, you know just as well as I did that someone in that room should have gone, we are literally handing them the bone with that press conference stuff.
They've set him up to be a puppet.
Like, whose decision in that organization is it to go, this looks really bad, we probably shouldn't do it?
Oh no! If I took over the FAI tomorrow, the first thing I would do is a new media training, new media team, because that is ultimately, I think, the crux of all of their issues. Is if they had an actual media team and a media coach and somebody telling them how to act, if they had like an Alistair Campbell spin doctor in house, Marc Canham never would have put a timeline on appointing a manager, which would have bought a lot more goodwill way in advance.
You also probably want to put out a link in post as well. That's
exactly. Exactly. Like, I think this is where ultimately, like, I think some of the decisions have been wrong, but not wrongly placed in their intentions, and the way they go about them is just optically puts people against them, and this is just yet another attempt at that. And with Heimir, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what Eamon Dunphy says. Get used to him. He's going to be here for the next little while. Otherwise, we're paying yet another golden handshake off of somebody. And I would rather...
Oh, let's face it. He's here till his contract ends. We're not getting rid of him.
No.
See, I don't have an issue with Heimir, okay? Like, in terms of... To me, he wasn't going to beat Greece. The performance is another thing. He wasn't going to beat England. I can get over that. I can live with that. But my problem is we are now looking, and it is a C-suite issue, if the listeners can't tell with me, is we are looking to the same people that got us into this mess one way or another to get us out of it. I can't buy into that. I don't know about you guys. I just can't see it.
Do you think, Nate, that the FAI are setting him up to be a puppet?
I don't know.
Is he the fall guy?
I don't know what you achieve by making him the puppet, unless like they believe John O'Shea is going to be the biggest masterclass ever in Irish football when he becomes.
And if they did, why didn't they just pick him? Because they could have got him for half the price.
I don't think there's any upside for him to be the puppet. Now, whether the FAI made that decision, I wouldn't put it past them. But personally, no, I just think very bad decisions on their part heading into week one, and they've now set a media line that's just going to keep getting pushed because they gave it to the media, no one else but them.
You know what actually baffles me? And in one way, I'm delighted for them. But when you put it like this, in this international window, San Marino got a win and we didn't. San Marino
Shout
haven't
out,
won a football game in 15
Twen-
years.
20 years.
shout
20.
out San Marino,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, like you love to see it, and I think the person I was happiest for was their admin on social. He had the greatest day of his entire life. But like we take the jokes out of it. Like San Marino are
Well,
winning games and we're not. I take out the England game, but the Greece game we'd no right to win. But
do you want
how
a
are
more
we there?
depressing fact?
You
Do you
know,
want a more depressing fact? Now, I'm going to completely hang this on Aon O'Riordan, who I saw tweeted. Apparently, no team has lost more world ranking places in the last 20 years than Ireland.
I'd well believe it. Like the last I heard were 58th or something. We have to be lower than that now.
No, I'd say we're in and around that.
Like I think what was our best was like 15 or somewhere around there.
Oh no, we were top 5 or top 6 in the 90s
Jesus Christ.
after one of the World Cups. Like I'm very much kind of like with podcast rankings, considering we are top 20 in Ireland usually. I
Yeah.
always take them with a pinch of salt. Like there's only so much you can read out of it. Like look what Wales did before the 2016 Euros. 6th we got to in August 1993.
That's way above our station, to be fair. Like let's just you call it a spade.
We've been worse than we are now. Like in 2014 we did reach 70.
Jesus Christ.
And we still got to Euro 2016.
Still reach
So like we can't. Yeah.
How bad was everyone else? Like
we can always dig. But like I think we can fall into a habit of over like catastrophizing like all these kind of things. It's not the cataclysmic end of the world here.
Starting to feel like it's coming though.
Did you see what Tony Cascarino had to say? And I actually think he hit the nail on the head with this one. He goes, for the first 45 minutes of the England game, he was trying to decide if Ireland were more like Andorra, San Marino, or the Faroe Islands.
Faroe Islands, Brian Kerr, love it.
Like that's a great line, but like he's not wrong.
Like that's what hurts most. There's truth in that. Like
that stings.
Yeah. Oh, lads.
I don't think there's any quick fix for any of this though. Like I think ultimately it all goes back to funding. And if we have this Apple tax windfall, like would you give them like a one-off kind of thing? Would you give them like is there any benefit to giving Ireland a new training centre?
I don't think it can. It can't just be one. It needs if we're gonna go down. If we're gonna put money into football in Ireland, we need areas across the country where we have one home base, like in Abbottstown, kind of home of football. Let's have a second one of them. But then outside of Dublin, we need to be fostering talent in all corners of this country.
Killian, let me ask you this. If you're the one handing out the money, can you in good faith give the FAI money? Could you? Do you think that money's going to be used in the right way?
Bear in mind, not too long ago, they suspended the funding for the FAI.
Well, ultimately, right now, no, because I don't think there's enough transparency on who's in charge. Because we have an interim CEO, so there's always going to be a question mark over whether you can or not. But if you were to kind of follow that model, you'd never give money to anybody because there's always going to be a question mark of what they're going to do with it. Like, look at the GAA. That's a black hole that just seems that money comes out the other end, but nobody knows what happens in the middle. And there's enough though. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but at least there's enough there. Like the FAI are in debt. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, do you think it'd be better off clearing the debts of the FAI or giving them money to build something?
Oh, ideally both, obviously. But like, I think if we were to give the FAI money right now, there would have to be strict legal kind of agreements as to where that money is going and a timeline for it that if they don't meet, there is hell to pay. That's the only way this works.
Yeah, that's not realistic though.
That's what I mean, you know?
So like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I think this is where we need to be a little bit more inventive and a little bit more kind of far reaching and far looking, and maybe we'll have interviews in the not too distant future about kind of like how youth structures can work to the benefit of clubs and nations, to try and get a better understanding of how these kind of things can ultimately
Happen.
take effect,
Yeah.
and how long the timeline needs to be. Like us in Ireland, we're great at being given a timeline that's ridiculously far away, not keeping up on it. That we allow it to slip and also hold nobody to account. But we also want things done yesterday.
If we had a plan, which we don't, it would take at least 10 years. But we don't have a plan, so it's going to take far longer than that.
But like the last time we had a plan was Rude Doctor, and ultimately we're now seeing benefits of it because we have more technical players. You can say whatever you want about the quality of them or the team overall.
So for context, Rude Doctor started 2012, 2013, left 2021.
Yeah, and we're now only now seeing and reaping the rewards of what he was doing. And he was criticized at the time for kind of going, "Oh, you're focusing on the wrong area." So like,
he had a plan that took 8 years for his plan to come to fruition, and look where we are. I'm not ragging on him. He brought through the best players we could have done in that circumstance, but like we're still where we are, you know.
Yeah, but ultimately from him you have the likes of Evan Ferguson, because it's the building blocks that he put into the Irish system, and Evan came through the Irish system.
Yeah,
like so. For whatever anybody wants to criticize about these kind of long-term plans and like, oh, what's the point of doing it now when we're not going to see it until 2050? Well, then if you don't plan to see it in 2050, you'll never plan to see it at all.
I'd buy into a 2050 plan, but there's no one I'd believe in that organization to pull off that plan.
Join us next week as Not a Pundit 2050 Ireland plan announcement.
I have a question for you, Killian, because you seem to be more of the positive side than at least me personally.
And me.
And I've seen things after the game where there has been a little, I'd say a small portion of the fans that are still positive and stuff like that. Where do you sit? Can you sit there and go like, let's just give this time, or like, do you believe we're heading for hiding for nothing? Do you know what I mean? Like,
you can be, so I'd be kind of sort of in the middle. I think I'd be a lot more kind of I'd give them a lot more benefit of the doubt. Like when you look at the women's game now, like the amount of changes and stuff, like you have new hires in the management, and Hannah Dingley now coming in as like the head of the women's football operations and stuff. It's like
big move.
These things, yeah. So there's been a lot of flux over the last little while for Irish football in general, including rebrands and everything. Like we don't have a CEO, and the CEO that was only there for like 2 years. Like we are still in the fallout of John Delaney, nearly a decade on, but we're still in the fallout of John Delaney. And when you have somebody as dictatorly and as far-reaching within the company, that's going to take a long time to go through. I don't mind not having success now. I don't mind losing a load of games right now. What I do mind is losing games badly and having a player like Matt Doherty, who we have seen in the past is a very technically good player, but not trying, and that's where I have my problem. Like I see Ireland now as I saw Sunderland in League One. Not to always make it about Sunderland, but like if you watch Sunderland Till I Die, like I think we're in our Stuart Donald ownership phase where we have people, not the right people at the top, but maybe they're going to put the right people in next. We have players that don't necessarily aren't the best technically and maybe not the best emotionally for the team, but maybe the next ones are going to be. And once you start getting the right building blocks in place and getting the right person at the head with a bit of a vision, like a Christian Speakman, trust the process and
All right, Arteta.
keep believing, and
But, like,
you can get the benefits of it. So
it
like,
does.
I'm not. I think I am genuinely somewhere in between. I can criticize a bad game, but ultimately, I'm not going to criticize when the work and the building blocks are being there for something bigger in the future.
But like it does, like even when you said that, it does feel like a lot of maybe.
It's
Do
a
you know
lot
what
of
I mean?
hope.
Like it is.
Welcome to football, lads.
No, but
Day one, is it?
I know, but like
Just, like Connor, think with you at Newcastle. Like a couple of years ago with Mike Ashley. When Mike Ashley was your John Delaney.
Yeah.
You're going through a little period of flux and it will get better. Nate, you're doing it now with Jim Ratcliffe. Think of it in terms of that.
but
And
like,
actually they're a really good example because you got rid of Ed Woodward, John Delaney's gone. You still have Glazers in, so the FAI still isn't right.
But you even look at Newcastle though. Sorry to cut across you, but like you are right with that. But I think the difference is when the Saudis came in, they had a plan and they executed said plan. You know what I mean? In a very quick, arguably too quick fashion that we're struggling with right now. But I just feel like I keep saying
Two
it.
things on that though. The Saudis had all the money and they can buy players. Ireland doesn't have that option.
Yeah.
And two, not every ownership model is going to go in and go, oh, like we're seeing that at Dundalk. An owner can come in and go, oh, this isn't what I was expecting. I had a plan in my head. It's now gone. So there's only so much you can kind of hold it against them. You can still hold them to account, but there's only so much you can hold it against them.
I do want to clarify, like I'm not looking for Heimer's head in a stick. It's far too early for that.
neither.
You know, and
But
like I do want to get that out there.
can I say, this is my invitation to Marc Canham. Let's have a sit down. Let's have a chat. I want to understand what your goals are. Number one, we can discuss your new role. Happy days. But come on, fella, let's sit down, have a chat, and see where Irish football is heading.
Let us in on the plan.
I'm calling out Marc Canham. Let's have a chat, fella.
Let's hope we can make that happen.
Like that'd be incredible. And like I'm telling you, check out Sunderland because Christian Speakman does at the end of every transfer window. He does a video to the supporters explaining how the transfer window went, what they expected, how they think it's going to affect them going forward, and what it does for the fans is just incredible. So they kind of understand and kind of buy into it because at least they're being communicated to.
I'd love to have a sit
We're not
down
getting
with
that.
As much as we rag him, I'm being dead serious when
Like,
I say it's going to
change
be a
our
completely
mind.
respectful conversation. I just want to hear his side of it. I want to hear how was the last 2 years been? What does the next 5 look like?
Like
Plus, I'll be
change
there
our
to
mind.
referee
Change our mind. Like in terms of like inject that bit of belief into it because like we need communication. I think
Like
that's a big thing now. It's
if
like
the manager's saying the players need confidence, so do the fans. And to get that confidence, we need transparency. And this is where like come out from the look. It doesn't even have to be bloody us, but like have you ever seen a long form interview with Marc Canham?
no.
When's the last time you saw a long form interview with anybody
When
from the
he-
top level of FAI?
That's what I'm saying.
He done that one with the FAI. I don't know if it was long form, but it was like longer, where it seemed like he was being forced to be in that room to have that chat. Do you remember that one?
The longest interview I've seen from somebody of of the higher end of the structure of the FAI was an Oireachtas committee.
Yeah.
Give us
Or
30
Heimer's media day. That was it.
Jenny, give us 30 minutes of your time and let's have a chat and you can change our minds. Because I'd love nothing more. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely, lads, I'm being honest. I've had my go with him on here and I still believe what I said, but change my mind.
And I'm open to my mind being
want to believe.
changed. You know, look. We're all Irish football fans. We're mad about it. It like football is our life, but I'm really finding it hard to believe in the FAI system. So please give us even 20 minutes of your time, and that's my plea done. I'm sort of getting on my knees at this point.
And on that bombshell, we'll leave it there. Hopefully, we'll have a very special guest very, very soon.
Marc Canham coming soon.
Nate, Connor, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And we'll catch you next week.
Messi. Oh my goodness! Balotelli.